Hey, everybody. Welcome to Coffee Closers. This week, we're talking all about the reclose the close step. So we all know there are a few steps in the sales process, from qualifying down to fact-finding, putting your proposal together, and then, of course, closing the deal. But what about reclosing the deal? If you're not familiar with the concept, we talk about all that and more on today's show. Very interesting concept from one of our favorite selling sales systems called the Sandler sales system. We're talking about that on the show today and more. Hope you enjoy it. If you like the show, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a comment, or like it. All right, everybody, welcome to Coffee for Closers. Alex Wellings, Rick Kallmeyer. We are talking all about reclosing the close today. An exciting topic that, Rick, you wanted to do. We were talking about ideas for the show today, and you had said that you had run into a few folks that, it was a perfect example of, right? They were in the prime position. They were kind of they're closed, but you were leaning into the training of reclosing the close, which dates back to one of our episodes in the past. Maybe we can link that or show it in the description below, where we talked about our three favorite sales processes. One of those being the Sandler sales system, and the Sandler sales system speaks highly about reclosing. And I think back there in that episode, didn't we say, like, the one thing we would take from the Sandler sales system was the upfront contract?
Yeah. Yep.
If there's another thing, it's the reclose.
Reclose the close. Yep.
And so it's so important. If you haven't read that book, glossing over it, reclosing the close, and we can get into your examples right after this. But reclosing the close is all just about, okay, I'm at a place now, customer or prospects agreed to join. I've got to follow up and continue to make sure I nurture the relationship until everything's buttoned up. And in a lot of cases, that means preempting and prepping the client for what's to come.
Yep.
And so you've got a couple of examples of some recent clients, I guess.
Yeah.
And then, maybe we can talk about some of the theory behind it.
Yeah, and I think one of the things to reclosing the close that stuck with me was, like, unless you're moving money, especially in our business, right? Unless you're moving money from something like a thrift savings plan, a 403B, or a 401k, where there isn't really a manager, it's just like an employer plan, then you're going to have to move it somewhere where somebody else is generally advising it or planning for it, right? Like, there's if you're moving TAA Craft, if you're moving Schwab, if you're moving some other kind of fund like a bucket of money, there's generally some kind of a money manager there, right? So, you can have a fantastic conversation with the client, make a ton of sense, get them on your page, get them with you. They still have to go to that advisor to then liquidate the account, move it to a money market, and transfer it to you, right? And maybe some people do this, not an experience I have, but unless you're on the phone with the client talking to their fund manager saying, hey, this is what we're going to do, then they're going to go that road alone, right? That client is then going to have to go talk to the manager and say, hey, look, I was talking to this guy. He wants me to do this, and I think it's a good idea. That guy is just an equal at-bat with you, if not a greater at-bat, because at least he's been with that client. The devil you know is better than the one you don't know, right? To then undo your sale entirely, right? So if you don't preempt or at least have a conversation about, like, the next steps and what's going to happen, right, then that sale can very easily be redone, especially if you get into the world where a lot more of it run into it, where it's like it's a family member helping, or it's a stepbrother, cousin, or something like that, where there's more of a familiar relationship than just some guy at a bank or at a fund management company. So talking with the client saying, hey, look, like, building your case properly and giving them some ammunition to go back to the advisor with and say, hey, look, these are the reasons I want to move my money, not just because of the annuity sale, but also, like, look, like, I've been with you for years. This is a return. Every time I feel like I'm getting ahead, the market goes out and I get pulled back behind, right? Like, giving them things to go tell the advisor, like, look, this is why I'm leaving, and good enough reasons that give it value that they can speak from their heart. And I think that's the biggest thing, right? Like, you can load a client's lips with an argument to sequence of returns, of market risk, of conservative argument. But if they don't have something that, like, emotionally why they're leaving, then that guy is probably going to have more ammunition to battle against that client, right? You're not having an argument with the advisor. Could you beat that advisor in an argument or a discussion on financial theory, on why an annuity is more important? Yes. But you have to have that through the client to that advisor, and she or he is not going to be as well prepped to have that battle, right?
Yeah.
So the other way to go is to say, like, look, like, you know, again, there's dozens of examples of it, but, you know, you have to prep them and give them a well-believed or a hard enough believed reason to go back and kind of fight that battle.
Well, they have to thoroughly understand why they're doing this.
Yep.
Like, I mean, that's key.
Yeah, and believe in it, right?
And that's a lot of the reclosing. It's like, okay, here's what's going to happen. And you just have to stay sound. And these are the 3 things or the 3 reasons why we're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you stick to those 3 reasons, there's nothing in this portfolio that's going to allow you to like, if these are the 3 things you want,
right?
then these are the 3 things. And none of these things are accomplished, or not all 3 of these things can be accomplished by your current portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think, you know, it's like, look, if you don't do that,
yeah,
if you don't preempt or prep your prospect to go and fight the fight without you, I do think that there are people that will get on the phone and, you know, they might not fight with the advisor directly,
Mm-hmm.
although some will.
Yeah.
I do know a chunk of advisors that would get on the phone with, say, a carrier that they're replacing a policy
Absolutely.
with.
Yep.
Ask the details of that policy, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's advisors out there that would call to like a headquarters of like an Ed Jones
Yep.
or like something like that.
Say, hey, look, we're processing this money. I have the client on the phone.
Yeah,
We're
and
gonna,
more
you
of the
know,
headquarters of the home office rather than talking to the rep themselves.
Yep.
Which is kind of silly, but still, you know, if the prospect, in order to close, says, I'm going to talk to my guy,
mm-hmm.
which happens a lot,
Yep.
you do need to load their lips on these things. You can, if you're been in this business to any degree or know the downsides of annuities, you can tell exactly
Yep.
what the guy is going to say about your suggested strategy.
Yep.
And you can't have not mentioned those things in your sale,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's another
Yes.
thing. It's like
Yep.
you can't have done a glossing over the
Mm-hmm.
bad points of your product,
Yep.
because then you're going to look bad in front of your competitor or
Yep.
whomever this guy is down the road when they start fighting for their client,
Mm-hmm.
right? Fighting to retain their client. And so, you know, if you haven't told them the true liquidity nature of the product, you haven't told them how much upside they're potentially sacrificing, if you haven't talked to them about, you know, so if you pitch somebody on a 14% return on investment on an annuity,
Mm-hmm.
and like, you know, like, look, we did on past performance here. If they go in as like, you know, the average annuity is returns 4%.
Yep.
You know, and liquidity is completely tied up, and you're not going to be able to get this without paying massive fees and penalties. It's like, well, first off, I might not call them fees. Okay, so it's like, okay, if I'm being transparent, in the sales process, I've leaned into the liquidity issue.
Yep.
Right? I've said and made a point why it's not a big deal on whatever subset of money we're moving.
Mm-hmm.
This is why liquidity is not an issue, right? Address the issue. Second, I've been more than transparent about what would have been, so still being able to mention the 13% return
Mm-hmm.
that the allocation could have gotten for us, and then lowered the expectation, saying, look, but all we're looking for is 4 to 6%.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's all we're looking for. We don't need 13%. That's nice, whatever. We're looking for 4 to 6. Now I say, look, when we go into let's say they're all in. Yeah, that sounds good. That's exactly what I want now.
Yep.
Fantastic. But we're going to go move on. I want you to have a conversation with your guy,
Mm-hmm.
okay? Because I do think it's important that you get some, you know, maybe some assurances about what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
This is how I approach it. I want you to tell him you're moving. This is what you're looking for. I'm starting, you know, you don't have to go into details about what you're doing. If you feel like you want to, go ahead. Let him know. You're looking for this. We're moving to a product like this. He's
Mhm.
probably going to ask anyway.
Yep.
And here's what he's going to say. He's going to say liquidity is an issue. We talked about that,
Mm-hmm.
right? This is why it's not an issue. Don't forget that.
Yep.
Right? Then also, these are the returns. Oh, you're not going to see all the returns. You're going to pay a lot of fees. I want you to know There's no fees. Look at look at what we're doing. Or if there are fees, pointing them out.
Yeah.
The fees aren't astronomical.
Yeah.
Certainly not compared to what you're paying over here.
Yep.
Oh, the guy's not a fiduciary. First off, what does he mean? Acting in best interest?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm bound by the same best interests or similar best interest provisions as he is.
Yep.
The only thing difference between what he gets done or him as a fiduciary and me is maybe a not fiduciary. If you're a fiduciary, then so am I.
Yeah.
But if you're not, the only difference between us is how we take our money.
Yep.
He's taking it out of your pocket. I'm getting it from the insurance carrier, not out of your pocket.
Yep.
Right? We're both getting paid over the 10-year period relatively the same amount of money. Also true.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take let's say 6%, 7% commission on a product over 10 years. He's going to take 1% over 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So he's getting paid way more than I am.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
10-year contract.
Yep, absolutely.
People don't want to make that analogy.
Yep.
He's going to try and fight hard for your business. He's also going to try and make every excuse why this isn't a good opportunity, put every bit of slanderous things about annuities out there, but he's not going to have anything founded in logic because I'll doubt he has anything to protect against the three things that were most important to you.
Yep.
And then ask him how his current portfolio, we just looked through it, does those three things that you're looking for.
Yep.
Right? And when he doesn't have an answer because he won't, you can be as rest assured as you possibly will. Oh, we could make this move, or we could do this. If that's what you wanted, then we could have done this. Sounds like with just a few questions, I found out what your real needs were, right?
Yep.
We didn't spend much time together. If that's the truth, and he'll make some adjustments now, why didn't he reach out to you? Why didn't he pull any of this other stuff into consideration and talk to you about your other, whatever, spousal assets or Social Security or whatever other things that we talked about in the point? Why didn't he do any of that stuff? That's what you got to start to wonder when you start having these conversations.
Yep.
Because if he's willing to make adjustments now, then his plan, he didn't really know you. He didn't take the time to learn what your goals were. Because would you say your goals had changed drastically between now and the last time?
No.
Right? No. All things to consider. Right? And here's the thing. They're going to, okay, yeah, no, I get it. You're right. Okay, I will. All right, whatever. They go on their way. But when they come back, I'll bet you when that visor starts going down those words, they're going to say, you know what? He told me, stop right there. I know what you're going to say. It's too little, too late. So-and-so. Right? And in that moment, not only are the things that you said true, this is what's great about reclose is the close or preempting or prepping somebody for that hard conversation. Everything else you said
is now
twice as true
Yep.
as far as their subconscious. Wow, he said that's what you were going to say, which means he's probably right about everything else, isn't he?
Yep.
Right.
Man, this guy really knows what he's doing, right? He just said exactly what you'd say, right? Yep.
That was exactly what he said you would say. He told me you would talk about liquidity right away. He knew that would be what you said.
Yep.
And here you are talking about liquidity. Why didn't you ask me about these three things? Why these three things weren't important to me? So interesting.
Yep. Huge, right? I mean, you spend 3, 4, 6 hours with somebody, and obviously we all know the feeling of it and go through it, right? That go and talk to an advisor and then say, hey, I'm going to stick with what I'm with, right? So it's just something that's popped up a couple more times. I definitely want to talk about that,
That's, you learn about reclose the close because you've been through so many deals being upended by some other guy that just, the only thing they had was a relationship.
Yeah.
They're not even doing anything particularly well.
Client loses $20,000, $30,000 in 8 months, and you're like, why would you stay with them, right? And sucks.
Anyway, interesting stuff. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you want more information about Reclose the Close, Sandler's book is linked below in the description. Great book, worth a read. If you want to also just listen back to some of the other great sales books, we've got a bunch of videos about learning these different great sales systems. Anyway. Hope you guys enjoy it. We'll see you guys next time on Coffee for Closers. Take care. Sitting weird. Is it lower again? Did Dylan come back?
Yeah, how you doing?
Where's Dylan?
He had to leave.
Oh, that's right.